Question number 6, Lee MacArthur.
Thank you very much. To ask the Scottish Executive what assessment is made of the impact of Greylag Geese in Orkney and the effectiveness of the measures to limit the damage to agricultural land that the birds cause.
Minister Stevenson.
The impact of Greylag Geese in Orkney was examined in the Orkney Greylag Goose feasibility project commissioned by SNH and in the Scottish Government's review of goose management policy in Scotland, published in February this year. The Orkney study concluded that due to a number of factors, including the dispersed nature of wintering flocks, it would be premature to consider a standardised scheme across Orkney. Following the 210 review, Scottish Government and SNH officials are working with local farmers on goose management issues to improve scaring techniques and streamline the licensing procedure for the control of geese in the closed season.
Lee MacArthur.
Thank you very much, and can I thank the Minister for that response and indeed for his letter of 11th of December, which I think made some helpful pointers. A couple of issues that weren't raised there, and I'd be grateful for a bit of clarification if possible, if not now, then subsequently. He makes no mention of the possibility of extending the open season, which has been raised in the past. There was also, in an earlier letter in July, reference to consideration being given to species to be harvested in a sustainable manner. And again, it would be helpful to know whether the sale of goose meat is something that is likely to happen. And finally, in his letter of the 11th of December, he says that, that the National Goose Management Review Group is considering a range of options available in terms of managing geese populations. Again, any more detail on that would be very helpful for my constituents.
Minister.
Well, I'm glad the members had the letter because it was quite an extensive one. In relation to extending the open season, I think we would prefer in the first instance to rely on licences to allow farmers to scare geese off by shooting some of them during the closed season. I think that's an approach that is that is available now and is relatively straightforward to proceed with. I would say that I recognise absolutely that there are particular and special problems in Orkney that do not exist in the same scale elsewhere because of the dispersed nature of the goose population and the fact that there are now some 10,000 geese that are resident there all the year round. But we certainly want to continue to work with local farmers and others to ensure that we do have adequate numbers of licences and trained people to continue shooting during what is currently the closed season.
Jamie McGregor.
Thank you. Scaring techniques in an offshore archipelago like Orkney tend to result in just moving geese from one island to another. The island of Islay has a very good scheme to manage geese. Will the Minister commit to further studies of the impact of the Greylag geese in Orkney with a view to introducing an appropriate management scheme in the future?
Minister.
The member makes a perfectly reasonable point about the islands, plural, nature of the Orkney Island group. In that respect, I think the techniques that are applied in Islay will not necessarily transfer readily to Orkney. I think the key thing is the simplification measures that we're undertaking to make sure that it is easier for geese to be shot as appropriate. I think there is a potential role for coordination of that programme of shooting so that the dispersal, the geese moving that the member referred to, isn't simply a consequence without a real benefit.